We'd like to go ahead and invite GoRout to the stage.
All right, so I know what you're thinking. Oh my God, is NASA and the NFL in a partnership? Are they trying to play football on Mars? That is not the case. We're supposed to be here. My name is Mike Rowley, and I am the founder and CEO of a company called GoRout. GoRout is a communications company that delivers real-time, relevant, contextual information to our users through wearable display technologies. As a team, we have a tremendous amount of experience in hardware design, software engineering, and sports. As a former professional athlete, playing sports, growing up in sports, it was a huge avenue for us. And when we started GoRout, we saw a very specific need that needed to be met. And that was that we needed to simplify and maximize communication on the field between coaches and athletes. For many of you in the room who do not know or don't pay attention to football or the intricacies of football, the current delivery method is a single coach stands with an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper while 11 or 22, 14, 15, and 16-year-olds huddle around him as he verbally explains each and every position and what they're supposed to do on the next play. Now, if you can imagine a 14-year-old who doesn't have the ability to sit there and wait for the next snap post from their friends to come through, standing around listening to somebody talk about a piece of paper, it's extremely inefficient, slow, and boring. What we had to do as a company was bridge the gap between old school information delivery and a new school age where most of these players have never lived a meaningful life or meaningful day in their lives without the iPhone or iPad, no disrespect to Android, being a meaningful part and communication strategy for their lives. So we did that. We designed football's first and only on-field wearable display technology that allowed coaches the ability to design their play diagrams, always the way they've done it before, but on the field in real time instead of huddling around, send those play informations out to players digitally in real time. The players could touch the device, select their position, get coaching information, tracking information, tell them how to run the play, and give them feedback on how they actually executed. Now, I know what you're thinking. Football, NASA, where's the crossover? And we'll get to that. Currently, as a business, we're seeing tremendous results with our users. Right now, when a team uses our technology, and you can drive right up the road and go ask the guys at Stanford, they're great users of ours, been using us for a while. One GoRout practice is the equivalent of 3 practices using the traditional methodology. And that's outstanding. We have literally revolutionized how coaches and players communicate on the field at practice. We've changed how teams done this, how they do it and how they continue to do it. And for most organizations, that's a huge thing. They love that, and that's what they would build their business on. But we're a little different. One day we asked, what if? And I personally believe asking what if is the single most powerful question any human being can ask. It's full of promise, it's full of opportunity, and it can change things. Now, my staff would disagree, right? Because when I walked into the office and said, hey guys, what if? Their thought was, we're not going to sleep for a long time, but we're also about to embark on something insanely cool. So when I asked, what if we took our current wearable display and embedded it inside of a helmet, we designed a fully augmented, football's first fully augmented heads-up display technology. Now, we had to start in a few different places. One, we had to give it an operating system, so we started with Android. We gave it a gorgeous, large, colorful display, and we set the focal point out into infinity, so any user that's wearing it feels very comfortable that the information is just floating in front of them. Next, we had to talk about, well, how do you control it? You're on the football field, you're doing things, you don't have a mouse, what do you do? So we embedded a voice activation navigation system. We used noise-canceling technologies to ferret out ambient sounds, and we were using a simple voice pattern recognition system that allowed users to not activate each other's helmets, because you could imagine, as much as an offensive lineman would love to be a quarterback, that's not a good thing for the team. Lastly, in order for us to provide a real, effective communication tool that delivers information, we had to provide our users with the ability to see what their current wearers are seeing. So we built a fully embedded, bidirectional camera, allowing the head coach to tap in real time to see what the player is seeing while the rep's being run, but then also allowing medical staff at the time to pipe back in and look in the back of the eye and see if there's a concussion issue. Now, for most organizations, building that would be great. And generally, we love creating and innovating new technologies. But at GoRout, we also asked another important question. And that question was, what's next? Where do we go from here? In football, a GoRout is a game-changing play. It's a 50-yard pass that you see all over the field, all over social media, because it got everybody in the stands up on their feet, and it took the game away. Well, at GoRout, we love winning. We love competing, and we love changing things. So we know two things. One, that our technology currently has changed football. But two, we know what's next. As an organization, we fundamentally believe, with all of our core, that voice-activated, computer-guided, augmented reality systems that are embedded in heads-up displays will fundamentally change how industries work for generations. And it turns out we're not the only ones. The ability for you to touch, engage, and control information is powerful. Whether you're a firefighter and you're trying to identify where the rest of your team is on a site where you can see through smoke, or it's space exploration, or you're just riding a motorcycle or your bike and you want to know where to go and you don't want to look at your phone because you might get hit by a car. It's maintenance protocols where you're walking up to a new machine you've never worked on, and all of a sudden the system can tell you exactly what you need to do. It's telehealth, medicine, or EVAs. Aviation. The possibilities to change industries are endless. So here's what we've learned to date. We've learned that when we use various colors, guided assistance, and animation in wearable display technologies, we've been able to increase the output and execution of 14 through 22-year-old football players by over 300%. Now, I have young children. If I can get them to remember something 2 minutes after I told them, that's amazing. If they remember it 3, 4, 5 days later, that's groundbreaking. We've had tremendous customer traction as an organization. We currently work with hundreds of high schools around the country. We have thousands of units currently out in the market, and we work with teams at every major college football conference. But most importantly, our technology is put on trial every single day in rugged environments. With thousands of units out, we're making impactful contributions to how these teams practice every single day. And that's why, as an organization, we've maintained over the course of our life cycle a 96% team retention rate. We don't lose teams once we get them. So I know what you're asking. How do you make money? Here's how we make money. Currently in our space, we lease the hardware, and we sell a renewable annual networking fee that our hardware operates on. High school teams and small colleges are paying between $3,000 and $15,000 a year, while major colleges and universities and professional programs are paying somewhere between $15,000 and $50,000 a year, depending on the number of units they purchase. So, we're talking about emerging opportunities. Before we flew out here, we had the certain pleasure to meet with the head of emergency medicine at Mayo Clinic. And they sat down with us and they asked us, can you build a technology that can help revolutionize our ambulatory and emergency services to help us include telehealth? And we said, sure, why not? Let's do it. The ability for a paramedic to assess the situation, see a protocol, verify medicine on the site. The ability to just step into his bus and scan his inventory is powerful. It's impactful. It improves the job that they're able to do. We're also very interested in hoping to engage with NASA and the DoD on different initiatives that we can talk to about how space exploration, or even very simple tasks here on Earth on, you're a brand new maintenance worker at a space station. You've never seen some of these machines before. How do you service them? How can we help them be more efficient in their job? And lastly, how can we help public safety, police and fire, do their jobs better, more efficient, more effective? As a company, I'm proud to announce that in 2019, we are officially profitable. We are in the black as an organization. And moving forward, our goals are very simple. We'd love to establish a telehealth platform and pilot program, continuing to build on our football business, but also growing and adding additional pilot programs in 2021, where we're hoping that in the next 3 to 5 years, football is less than 5% of our total revenue as an organization. Again, at GoRout, we're all about the big play. So our next steps. In the heads-up display technology, we've got some things we want to adjust. We want to add a Linux operating system. We want to improve battery performance. Currently, the battery that we're running in there gives us about 32 hours of functional life before we have to recharge it. We'd like to get it between 60 and 80 hours. But more importantly, we would love to be able to continue to build our software platforms that are now open, that allow other people to build their great technologies on top of ours. And lastly, we'd love to add additional and upgraded processors. We built this about almost 2 years, 18 months ago, and so the processors that we're using are pretty outdated, so they need to be upgraded. So here's the hook. Here's what we're looking for. We're looking for strategic partners. We're looking for people who care, who want to see an industry change. We're looking for the opportunity to go along with the ride to help people who want to see a disruption in their industry. And lastly, we're looking for a little bit of capital. We're looking to raise $2.5 million to help us get to the next stage, to get to the pilot stage of this program for the heads-up display. Our football business is funding itself. We're ready to go to the next level and take the next step. You know, when I started GoRout, we had one mission, and that was to revolutionize how teams practiced. 3 years ago, I never anticipated standing in front of aerospace engineers, in front of NASA, being at NASA iTech. I never saw any of this potential. But we're here. And now we're asking, where else can we go? With that, I'd love to answer any questions that aren't too complex.
Could you tell me a little bit more about how this helmet is networked? Does it require a Wi-Fi connection? Can it mesh? What do you do right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now it's running on, it can run on Wi-Fi. It can also run on Bluetooth, so we can connect it to other devices. It can also operate on LTE. So we're running on a 700 megahertz band right now for it.
Okay, and are there any power differences between those three options, the battery life?
Not really, not much.
Okay.
It's pretty efficient in what it does.
And then can the current implementation work offline? And if so, how many hours of data could you save?
Currently, it does not work offline. Again, as a proof of concept, it was just, can we get it to work? Can we send information to it? We haven't gotten to that next stage yet. But that's something that we're absolutely interested in doing, putting, again, a better processor, putting more storage and memory on it so we can store long-term processes so you can activate it and just run it off its battery life. Currently, right now, it's running a 6,000 milliamp battery, and like I said, it gets us between 32 and 40 hours, depending on what we're running on it, of battery life, which we think is sufficient, but we're looking at other opportunities to expand that.
So then besides video, what other sensors have you integrated or are you planning to integrate with the helmet, and how does that affect battery life?
Yeah,
cost?
so that's a great question. How it affects battery life, I'm not quite sure yet. We haven't really expanded into other additional sensors. Now, because we're talking about the medical space, we're looking at potential heart monitors, EKG possibilities, other components that might be out there, but we haven't, it's too early stage yet to say that we've compiled those elements and put them together.
And then, I mean, there's clear overlap with this being a medical device. There is personal health information being recorded on the helmet now. Do you have a HIPAA-compliant plan in place, or when are you planning to have your organization hit that sort of point for handling healthcare data?
Absolutely. So currently, this is not storing anything other than maybe Nick Saban's defense when they go to play Auburn. So if anybody's interested in that, let me know. No, it's not storing any of that content right now. It clears cache pretty quickly. It doesn't maintain storage because that's how we built it for football. But hopefully, we're going to be looking to work with Mayo Clinic or other medical institutions on how to become HIPAA compliant, because that's kind of out of our stratosphere of knowledge at the moment. Does that adequately? Great.
How rugged is the display? You said you use it in practice. You didn't say use it during play itself.
You're not allowed to use any technology in between the lines on the field.
But I wondered how rugged the display is.
So this display itself is not very ruggedized at all. It's a proof of concept. So every time we've run testing on it, it's been with a coach or player wearing it in a non-contact activity. So they're running a 7-on-7 passing leave where they're just throwing the ball around, and if they get touched, the guy that touches them has to run until he pukes. Our current displays that we've currently built that are being used in the football space are extremely ruggedized. Over the 2,000 plus units we have on the market currently, last year we placed one. And that's in full contact practice.
So the other question I had is, telemedicine, I can't see somebody wearing a helmet. Can you
Absolutely.
display this on glasses or
Yeah.
sunglasses? Or how
Yeah,
small?
absolutely. So actually inside of here, and we're really excited for people to put this on at the impact stations, is actually it's a complete insert. So we can take this out and store it on anything. We can put it in existing helmets, we can put it on glasses, we can lay it out on a variety of potential form factors that are applicable to what you're trying to do.
So, couple clarifications. So when you talk about the number of units and your kind of traction so far, if I'm understanding it correctly, that's not with the helmet.
No, that's just
all with
what's a
the
one-off proof
armband.
of concept. That's the armband technology, correct?
Right. And then of all the things that you talked about, you've talked, the telemedicine part, the kind of augmented reality, those are both really crowded spaces where there are a lot of different solutions. Of all the things that you talked about, what parts do you think are the parts that are kind of the most unique or special for you? Like what really makes your solution really stand out compared to other telemedicine solutions or other remote maintenance solutions? Or or other augmented reality displays?
Sure. Well,
Is it that your hardware? Is it that you have the best display?
I think our display is pretty gorgeous. I think it's pretty damn cool. But I think what really separates us is that we're able to take this and apply it to just about anything. We can snap it on to just about anything that's out there, right? In terms of the telehealth space, you're right. That's a space that we don't know much about, and I'm completely open and honest about that, right? We weren't even thinking about telehealth. We were thinking about kickoff on August 15th until Mayo Clinic called us and said, hey, we're really interested in utilizing this for this space. So we're in Rochester, Minnesota, right? So it goes like cardiology, football, and then cancer research. So we're really tied in with the clinic. We went through their accelerator program, and when they called us and said, hey, we're really interested in looking at a solution, we listened. And so we're excited about what that potential could be, but I by no means plan to be an expert in the telehealth space at this point because we're just starting to look at it. But what differentiates this more than anything, I think, is it was built and designed to never adjust or change the layout of the current implementation or apparatus that it's being attached to. So we put this in the helmet. We didn't take any padding out. We didn't adjust how the helmet functions. We didn't adjust how the safety requirements are applied to it. So what we've been able to do is we've been able to build very small components that can snap into a lot of different unique areas, and I think that's unique. Yes.
for this. So for instance, telemedicine, if you're going to do VR or maintenance that you used, they could have big data requirements. Is your Wi-Fi or remote, you're going to be able to handle that data transfer?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the interconnectivity between the different helmets, users? So is it a bidirectional link? Is it primarily unidirectional? How do the different nodes communicate with each other?
So currently, the helmet itself, the place sending, receiving data of information is all one way. It's just from the sender to the receiver. Because when we thought about this, again, right, we're thinking about it from a football perspective initially, which was players aren't telling coaches what plays they want to run unless you're Tom Brady. Okay? So coaches are sending that information in, and we just kind of stopped at that point. It was, again, proof of concept, getting it out to the point, can we display an image in real time and make it accurate and pretty and functional for the wearer? The camera that we put in it, that we embedded, was bidirectional. So you could tune in to that frequency and then connect to it and look at it in both capacities. So that was something that we were very interested in getting in. And now, again, I tell you right now, it's a proof of concept. So as with any proof of concept, there are days where it really likes to work, and there's plenty of days where it doesn't want to talk to anybody. So we are currently, I mean, right now, the bidirectional piece is only in the camera. Everything else is just one way in.
Are you only looking at football currently? Are there any other sports that you're thinking this could move into? I'm just thinking of the lack of helmet in other sports.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, football, we focused on football, right, because it has two things. It has a very large user base, and it has the biggest budgets, right? There are some states in this country that will cut English before they cut football. So they have, it was a natural space for us to start building products and testing in because they could afford to spend the money to do it. In terms of other sports, right now, football has such a natural progression in terms of stop-start. There's time to digest and receive information. There's a lot of other sports where it's very free-flowing and moving, where that digestion time isn't really there, and it doesn't it just wouldn't work right. It would be doing it to do it for that sake, and I don't think it's a real solution if you do that.
Have you spent time with public safety or fire departments? Obviously, that's looks like a huge market, but have you had those conversations yet?
Yes, so we've actually sat down fairly recently also with the fire chief and some of the individuals that run public safety in the city of Rochester, where we're from in Minnesota. And this is something that they're very, very interested in taking a look at in ways that we can integrate in all different aspects. It's not just public safety, it was public works. They were looking at a bunch of different potential opportunities for form factor and usage. So we're exploring those opportunities right now.
Have you had any interest from dancers, actors, or marching bands?
Great question. Actually, we talked about 18 months ago, we talked to the Ohio State University Marching Band. Make sure I use the word "the," because if you don't, you'll get yelled at. But no, I think that would be very, very cool, wouldn't it? All those really complex movements and formations. So that's actually something that we haven't really explored too much other than hearing what they were thinking about. But that's something that we would certainly be interested in learning more about and engaging.
I'm always interested about the kinds of, over here, the materials and how they react in the sorts of extremes of the environment of space.
Sure.
So how far have you pushed any of this with regards to those sorts of things on heat, cold, radiation, I mean, you probably haven't, but how far have you gone?
Yeah, no, so we live in Minnesota, right? So it's cold 190 days a year there. And frigidly cold. So we've been able to have this outside when it's been minus 25, minus 30, certainly not what you're going to experience in space. So we haven't gone through those official thresholds on testing. So the answer to that is no, we haven't explored that. But we've had it outside in those conditions where it's been extremely cold, and we've had it outside where it's been 95 degrees with 95% humidity, and this device here works just fine. It operates as it would if it was 70 degrees and sunny, as it is here most days.
So Michael, brilliant presentation. Very exciting new tool that I could see extensive usability within the agency. But how are you going to stay focused as you move on to new applications and keep your team focused so that you can deliver products quickly and then be able to branch out smartly?
I'm actually extremely excited that you asked that question because there's a reason why we haven't done anything else. and you're asking some of these questions about the markets, and I don't have a lot of information, is because as an organization, it's in our DNA to be inherently focused on one thing, right? We focused extremely hard. I can't tell you the hundreds of hours we've spent fighting over colors that a button would be in our current football application, because we obsess about all those details. And until we get those right, and our market is telling us that we've gotten those right, we generally don't look elsewhere. But at the moment, our market is telling us we've done this right. We're doubling our user base every single year in football, and we're going to continue to do that. So now we think it's time where the football product itself is at a point where it can be sold and maintenanced, and we can start to divert our attention now to the next thing. And to be honest with you, we don't know exactly what that next thing is going to be quite yet. We're hoping that it would be in something in telehealth or with NASA and the DoD, but we're also kind of waiting to hear what other people think about where they think this could be applied for them, and then seeing if it's the right fit for us.
So what are you going to use the $2.5 million for?
So the $2.5 million is going to be utilized to take this from a proof of concept that works and start to put it into the next stage of getting the optical display to be more of a projector instead of an actual piece, a built-in piece. It's going to be to ramp up our staff to continue to grow and build some of the API tools that we know we're going to need to have somebody build other applications on top of this to run the hardware. So it's going to be, it helps us run our operations and R&D on the next version of the heads-up display.
Have you had any requests from your current clients or potential on your security needs right now? You know, if you were on the same Wi-Fi network as this helmet, could you steal the playbook?
Great question. No, so every individual system is obviously running, it's running a 256-bit encryption, so when the players are coming up and down, all those things are encrypted, and each individual team organization obviously has their own unique encryption keys. So if I could be on the same field, if I'm Alabama and I'm on the field with Auburn, and Auburn, they're both using the technology, there's no way for me to transfer over and steal their information unless I physically go and just grab their hardware devices.
So when you talk about people building on top of your platform, are you going to have an open API, or is it going to feel more like a managed Apple App Store where people building apps on top of it just have limited access to the data in the helmet?
That's a great question. I think it's going to feel more of a managed application where we're going to be trying to sell a licensing fee to people to build on top of and give them the components where they have the opportunity to put products in and utilize our suite.
Thank you.
For your voice recognition, I know you talked about you haven't done any temperature or any other testing in that, but have you done it to where you say you only want Tom Brady to be the one, be able to make the call? So let's say, have you tested it so each time they use it, it gets, you know, this is our voice, because today I might have a cold or I might be stressed out or.
Yeah, so no. I mean, we've tried it, and that works about 55% of the time. We're not there yet. It's very much, it's proof of concept. It's not perfect by any means. But those are things that we're trying to pay attention to, right? And I think the tools that are out there right now are getting much better at helping us do that, because we don't want to necessarily build everything by ourselves. But there are certain things that we're trying to implement, and we haven't gotten it quite right yet. Thank you.